And just like that, we're at episode 7. Episode 7 of the Belt Chronicles. This one is going to be the one that I'll be glad to get out of the way. As you can tell, I got two winged eagles sitting in front of you, so you know what that means. That's what we're covering today, and you should see on my notes all these different versions that we have to go through. So the first one, first of all, it's a Reggie Parks belt. I think everyone knows that, but I thought I'd throw that out there in case you don't. Reggie Parks belt from 1988 to 1998. And the first version is the WrestleMania 4 version, which is what is sitting here in front of you. And so it is 2x8 on the male side. On the male side. It is 2x5 on the female side. It's supposed to have a 2mm property plate that says Hulk Hogan on it. Because one of the things that Reggie started doing when this belt was brand new on TV was he... Hang on. I'm trying to move something over to the side here. He put the champion's name on the property plate. So, like I said, 2x5 over here. The property plate is supposed to have Hulk Hogan's name on it. It's supposed to have these two diamonds on the belt tip. And another distinct quality with the WrestleMania 4 version is the sidebars are supposed to be shorter. They don't come up closer to the Eagle's wings than they would on later versions. And heavyweight is unpainted, and this belt is a dual-plated belt. They would not go to all gold until 1990 after WrestleMania 6. So just keep that in mind. Every version of the Winged Eagle, and I'll reiterate this at the end of this, every version of the Winged Eagle has a 2mm World Relief banner that I've ever seen. There may be an outlier out there, but I've never seen that version that did not have that relief banner. So if your maker is not doing that automatically, either suggest that to them or get a different maker. Another thing, there is a leather pattern on the WrestleMania 4 version that I don't see on any other version. And it is over here in between this outer side plate and the male snap box. You'll see Earl Hebner holding it up the night it debuts, Saturday night's main event, Hogan versus Andre. And it is a cross pattern. I don't know how you describe it, but it's a little intricate design that Reggie Parks did. And it's supposed to be on here. You can see it when Savage beats... Who did he beat at WrestleMania 4? Was it DiBiase? Anyway, Savage wins the belt at WrestleMania 4, and you can see it there in the belt. And I also have another photo with a clearer image of how it's supposed to look. So this is my warm WrestleMania 4 version. So that's supposed to be there. So we had a couple Savage variants, is what I'll call them. One of them is so what they did was it was 2x4 by the time they got done with it. So obviously this is 2x5. And it looks like they took 2 rows of snaps off and added one here. So it'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here would be the belt tip. They shortened it because Savage's waist was a lot more slim than Hogan's. So that's one version. The shortened snap box. The banner on the main plate is still unpainted. The belt tip still has the diamonds. You can see that in the photo. And it's supposed to have... I've never seen a clear picture, but from what I've read and what I've been told and what I've heard about, it did have Macho Man on the property plate. Now, there is the Velcro variant. And that was in late 88 because I have seen footage of Macho Man wrestling Bad News Brown. And at the end of the match, Savage is putting the belt back on. Ironically, he puts it on upside down. But you can see that the snaps they're not there. It's a complete Velcro job all the way around. It doesn't even have... like even with WWE belts, it may be Velcro now on the inside, but they still put snaps in there So when they have it fastened, it looks like it's fastened with snaps. They didn't even do that, from what I can tell. It looks like it's just flush leather, and then on the back side is Velcro. So on that one, the heavyweight banner is painted in, and the belt tip appears to be smooth. These diamonds seem to go away with that Velcro variant. And then we get to WrestleMania 5. WrestleMania 5, Hogan versus Macho Man. Hogan raises the belt up after the match, and we are back to having snaps. So it is 2x5 over here and 2x8 over here. And we can see that after Hennig destroys the belt on Saturday Night's Main Event, but there's a little bait and switch that happens on that show. But I'll get into that in a second. We're still dual plated. The heavyweight banner for WrestleMania 5 is unpainted. You can see Hogan holding it up and Hogan wearing it. It's unpainted. The property plate is dual plated. So no black paint here. And I'm assuming it still says Hulk Hogan. I see no reason why it wouldn't, but I can't really make that out, to be quite honest with you. So Reggie did, and now we'll get into the WrestleMania 5 version being destroyed on Saturday Night's Main Event. So if you haven't seen that episode, it is November 25th of 89, and Hogan goes to the ring to wrestle the genius Lanny Poffo. And he wears to the ring a version of this winged eagle that has heavyweight painted in. But that's not the WrestleMania 5 version, because I just showed it to you. So what I think they did, because they needed Hogan to have a belt for the house shows, right? He can't have this belt be destroyed in the storyline and then start going to the house shows that next night with no belt. So he went to the ring with the belt with the black banner. Hennig goes out to ringside and takes it. And then when he destroys the belt with the hammer, it's not the same belt that Hogan wore to the ring. It's a different belt. But I figured I'd point that out because that threw me for a loop. I'm like, oh, the WrestleMania 5 version had heavyweight painted in. And then I go to look at it when Hennig's destroying it, and also pictures of the belt in its current state, and it's unpainted. I'm like, wait a second, something's up here. And then it also had this very unique snapbox tooling. Instead of having the standard Reggie style tooling you would see here or here, it had what looked like flowers around each individual snap. So that's one thing I noticed looking at pictures of the belt in its current state. And then also, Reggie left more space past these side plates than what you're seeing on this one. You can see there's a good, I would say, half inch, maybe 5/8 past this outer side plate where the tooling goes. There's a clear gap in between where the clamshell tooling ends and the side plate happens. And it's like that on both sides. So that's WrestleMania 5, and also the Saturday Night's Main Event version that got destroyed by Curt Hennig. And no, let me dispel a rumor. That version of the belt was not used to make the hardcore belt. I don't know which version that was, but we see what the WrestleMania 5 version looks like now. Obviously, that dispels that it was ever the hardcore belt. So, WrestleMania 6, we're still dual plated at that pay-per-view. It's still 2x8 and 2x5 over here. 2x5, again, smooth belt tip. We've gotten away from the diamonds at this point. And like I said, 2x8. The property plate is back to being black. You can see Hogan after the match with it over his shoulder. He's walking into the ring to present it to the Ultimate Warrior. And as he has it draped over his shoulder, you can see that it is back to being black. This heavyweight banner is painted in. And I want to say that was pretty much it for the WrestleMania 6 version. Once you get past WrestleMania 6, that's when we get to the all gold versions. And that's under Ultimate Warrior's title reign. So that would be from WrestleMania 6 until Royal Rumble 1991 is when you get all these variants that come in. And I hope you guys appreciate this, because this, for me to sit through these nonsensical, rambling, almost just not even being decipherable. Is it indecipherable or undecipherable? I think indecipherable. Promos the Ultimate Warrior would do. And he's going on and on about seemingly nothing. If you knew how many of those promos I had to sit through to get screenshots for this video, you talk about a labor of love, that's what this video is. And usually with the Belt Chronicles, I don't like to drink, right? I save that for the review. But because we're talking about the Ultimate Warrior, and look, I'm glad I didn't have to watch the matches. There's not enough time to watch Ultimate Warrior matches, but we will get into the belts. I just need a drink to keep myself sane. So, the blue one, I've been told, I've heard, that there were 2 baby blue variants of the Winged Eagle that the Ultimate Warrior had. I can't tell them apart. If there are 2, I can't tell them apart. But what I can tell you is the blue version that I'm able to see is 2x4 over here on the female end. It is 2x6 on the male end. It's all gold. The backing is black. And you could tell by the height where this font is, where it says Hulk Hogan or just says Champion up here. You could tell by the height that it says something different. And it's because Ultimate Warrior got his own property plate too. And I'll put a photo of what that looks like. So when you see the taller property plate, you know that it says Ultimate Warrior. So the blue version does have Ultimate Warrior in the property plate. So, if I haven't mentioned already, that one's black backing. I think I mentioned that. Then we get to the white versions. Now, I thought there was only one, but I was actually wrong. I had to go double check, and thank God I did. There's the white version 1 and the white version 2. The white version 1 is 2x4 over here on the female end, and 2x6 on the male end. And I have a photo of Ultimate Warrior holding it up, and you'll see 2 things that I want to point out to you. Number 1, the backing is black. And number 2, the property plate is shorter. So I don't know if it just says Champion or if it just says Warrior, but you could tell by the size of where the font would be, where the lettering would be, it's shorter. So I don't know what it says. It may just say Warrior, but I want to bring that to your attention because that's how you tell apart the 2 white variants. So like I said, 2x4 and 2x6 on your snap count, black backing, and a shorter property plate. When you get to what I call the version 2, I don't want to guess, but I would have to assume based on what I'm seeing with all the other Warrior variants, it's still 2x6 over here, but I have not seen a photo of that, so don't quote me on that. But the property plate is taller. You can see it's taller with the, say, Ultimate Warrior on it. And instead of being 2x4 on the female end, it is actually 2x5. And the property plate is larger where it says Ultimate Warrior. And that one has red backing. I was able to sort of see promos and what he did on the Brother Love show, whatever, and kind of the way I figured out that which one was which. So the black backing had the shorter property plate. The taller property plate, by process of elimination, has the 2x5 snap box instead of 2x4, and it had red backing. So that's what I have to go on. There is a black version that is 2x5 on the female end and 2x6 on the male end. And there is, let's see, obviously black backing on that. And I'll have to double check the property plate on that one, but I'm pretty sure it had Ultimate Warrior property plate. I will put a photo up on that. Like I said, these all kind of run together on me. The Ultimate Warrior version is kind of a blur for me. And then there's the lavender version that he wore to the ring for Royal Rumble 91 against Sergeant Slaughter. And Sergeant Slaughter wins the belt. That one is 2x4 over here on the female end. It does have an Ultimate Warrior property plate. You could tell with backstage promo with, I think, Mean Gene, the height of it, it does say Ultimate Warrior. And then it is 2x6 over here on the male end. And you can kind of make it out as he's holding it. You can see like this, Sergeant Slaughter. He's got this like clamshell tooling pattern that goes up and down vertically right here. And you can kind of make it out under the lights. I don't have an up close view of what that's supposed to look like. I've seen it on other. Actually, now that I say that, there's an all gold version on a black strap that Sergeant Slaughter had, and you could see that pattern right here. So I'll put that photo up. This is after he's beaten Warrior, and I think it is a belt that was originally designed for Ultimate Warrior because of the height of the property plate. You'll see Slaughter holding it up. Now, mind you, when he wins, when he beats Warrior, he's got the lavender one. So this is a WWF photo shoot where he's got the black one in his hands, and you can't see the front of the property plate. All you can see is just kind of the side of it. But like I said, you look down here at how tall this lettering is, this where this section is right here, and that, to me, screams that it's supposed to be for Ultimate Warrior. Because to my knowledge, they never made a Sergeant Slaughter plate. So it would almost have to say Ultimate Warrior. And they just had an extra one. I don't know if Reggie just sent it or if they got one of the belts back from Ultimate Warrior after he agreed to drop it. I don't know. But that one is 2x4 over here on the female end, and 2x6 over here, and it does have that leather pattern. I think they even did a promo of Warrior with it. And the reason why I say that is, as I was going through these Ultimate Warrior promos, I happened to see a promo of him with a black strap winged eagle. And the specs line up with a taller property plate and the 2x4 female snaps that's consistent with the one that Slaughter is later photographed with. So if you got all that, thanks for keeping up. We go to Survivor Series 91. Ultimate Warrior, Jesus Christ. Undertaker beats Hogan at Survivor Series 91. And the specs on that one is, number one, it's all gold. Like I said, no more dual-plated winged eagles after WrestleMania 6. But it's all gold. We have 2x5 over here on the female snaps. We have 2x8 on the male snaps. You can see Paul Bearer holding it and presenting it to the Undertaker. So, and it appears to be a tighter cut where the wings are either coming up to the edge of the strap or they're just barely peeking over the strap. Not as much as they would be on the final version, which is that version back there. But it appears to be that way, and it appears to be the same one that Ric Flair wins at the 92 Royal Rumble. So that is, like I said, tighter cut. And the one that Flair wins, I want to say is, yeah, because it still had it didn't have the wing chipped off. It has these little stars right here. You can see a WWF photo with Flair, and you can see in between this outer side plate and the male snap box, these three little stars that Reggie put in. So there's that version. We, at some point, it either gets re-leathered or Reggie gives them a new belt. I don't know what happens, but there is the chipped eagle, which is the one that WWE actually has in their possession now. To my knowledge, it's the only winged eagle WWE has in their possession. And it's a lot more of a round cut, and this wing has gotten chipped off at some point, I think during Flair's reign. And it's the one that he drops to Brett in Saskatoon in 92. And it goes through WrestleMania 9. You see Hogan with it at WrestleMania 9. Yoko has it, obviously. But that one is 2x8 on the male end down here, if I can keep myself straight. 2x5 on the female end. That one has... It's weird. So Reggie still did... Could have a photo of Brett with it. Reggie still did this little pattern like what would be on the Ultimate Warrior versions for the chipped eagle. I don't understand why he did that, but I see a photo of Brett with it, and it's there. So I figure it's worth pointing out. Obviously, we're doing black backing on this one as well. And then we get to WrestleMania 12, which is the Iron Man match with Shawn and Brett. And that one, you can see photos of Brett when they're telling him they're going to restart the match, and it's going to sudden death. It is 2x8 over here on the male end. Next time you see Shawn Michaels on Raw, it's 2x5 over here on the female end. And there is a distinct bend at the top of the main plate where WWF sits. And you can see it because as he's getting interviewed by Vince, you can see it catches the light when the rest of the plate doesn't. Kind of like how the crumb rind had a bend at the top. So the reason why I point that out is I believe that these same plates get re-leathered and they go to WrestleMania 13 with that belt when it's Undertaker versus Sid. Because the next night on Raw, when Undertaker's getting introduced as the WWF champion and Vince is in the ring doing an interview with him, you can see that the light catches the very top of that main plate just like it did on the one Shawn had. But it had to get re-leathered because the snap count is different. So on the WrestleMania 13 version, is 2x5 still on the female end. But rather than it being 2x8 like on WrestleMania 12, it is actually on the male end, it is 2x10. And I can make it out because I'm looking for it, but it is difficult to make out. There is an embossed WWF stamped into this male snap box. You can see Undertaker holding it up at WrestleMania 13. You can barely make it out, but it is there. It is a round leather cut. And like I said, it had that bend at the top, and the plates are worse for wear. You can tell it's been in and out of the ring a long time. You can see it when Undertaker got it in his hands the night after WrestleMania. It's pretty corroded. And then we get to WrestleMania 14 version, the last version. Let me swap this around here because that's actually what I have back here is the WrestleMania 14 version. This is my Altair belts. Winged Eagle. Slaughter was nice enough to sign that for me. Okay, so when it gets to WrestleMania 14, you'll know it because of the tight leather cut. You see how much the wings stick out, and I think makers make this a little bit too tight of a cut for what was actually on TV. I think you look at photos of like they're doing press photos with Austin, Tyson, and Michaels. It doesn't seem to stick up that much over. Just make your strap just an 1/8 of an inch taller, maybe. But that's just what I see. This is the version that also gets this snap bar broken off. I think Austin stole the Winged Eagle from DX's locker room, and they're cornering him around the ring, and Austin starts swinging it. And from what I remember from that segment, Austin they somehow end up getting the belt back, and that bar is still attached. But I think what he did, he probably cracked it, and they got backstage and realized it had been damaged, and they said, "Hell with it, we can't fix that." So they just snapped it the rest of the way off. But you could see Austin with it after the pay-per-view with Mike Tyson, and this sidebar is broken off. So that's WrestleMania 14. Like I said, tight cut. It's introduced, I think the date it was introduced was October 5th, 1997, on an episode of Raw. I think it was Bret Hart versus Triple H, if I remember right. But late 97 is when this final version of the Winged Eagle is brought out on TV. It's used through the Montreal Screwjob. And I'm going to give a shout out here because I told him I would. The reason why the Belt Chronicles series is going on, the reason why it's happening, is because of a conversation I had with Vince LaPlante. Now, Vince works alongside Orm Belts, ORM, whatever you want to call them. And a photo got circulated on one of the belt pages. I'll put the photo up right now of the WrestleMania 14 version being held up by Mike Chioda before the match starts. And so you could tell, obviously, it's WrestleMania 14 version because this bar is missing. But one thing I never noticed is the snap count on that, instead of being the standard 2x5 like it is on my replica, it's actually 2x6. So I noticed that, and I start messaging people that are middlemen, that are makers, that are leather guys, and go, hey, check this out. Here's something I bet nobody, a lot of us didn't notice, right? I didn't notice it for years. So check this out. And Vince gets back to me like everyone else, kind of did. But Vince tells me, he goes, hey, man, that's cool. That's awesome that you noticed that, man. He said, hey, that's kind of growing the hobby forward and whatever, and that's kind of what we need. And yeah, maybe one day we'll see the other side, and that's when the light bulb right over my head. I'm like, you know what? That would be nice. So through a comment he made, this is where this Belt Chronicles series came from. Is yeah, it would be nice to have a full spec sheet as best as we can on these belts. So Vince, I know you probably didn't think you were going to spark this, but thank you. And getting back to that other snap box like he suggested, I was able to find a photo, and rather than the standard 2x8 that you get with Reggie, on the last version, Reggie did 2x9. So, good thing he mentioned that. So, we know the WrestleMania 14 version is now 2x6. It is 2x9, and like I said, the sidebar gets snapped off. It is the tightest leather cut of any of the Winged Eagles. And that's pretty much it as far as specs go. If I'm forgetting anything, I apologize. The next video to come out, I want to say it's the Intercontinental, because this is episode 7, and Intercontinental's episode 8. Yeah, Intercontinental's episode 8, and then the Big Green is episode 9. So I got a lot of editing to do. I'll see you guys on next week's video on the Intercontinental.